Okay, I believe it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and wait on Tammy. Uh-oh. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Granbury City Council at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. We are at Granbury City Hall, 116 West Bridge Street, Granbury, Texas, 76048. We are now called to order. For the invocation, I'd like Pastor Don Jones of Triple Cross Calvary Church to come to the podium and lead us in prayer. Stand. Pastor Dan Jones.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, for everything that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for a place like Granbury to live in Hood County. Lord, we thank you for the values that are here. Father, we ask for wisdom. I ask it specifically for this council. Lord, as they make decisions, we ask for your guidance, for your leadership. We ask, Lord, for wisdom in making these decisions, that this place would continue to be what it is. We pray, Lord, that you would just have your way in this community and in this county and in this state. So, Lord, that's our prayer. We ask you to give us grace, and we ask, Lord, that we would remember to give each other grace. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Richard Hafe, if you would lead the Pledge of Allegiance for us. Podium.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, sir. We now have proclamations and presentations. The council or Mr. Kaufman have? Mr. Kaufman, of course. Need some help carrying all that?
I'll talk from a pretty sneaky microphone. So I just want to give thanks to a couple of people. Tammy, come on up, and Jeff, come on over. We got a couple of awards from Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers. We've had these for about a month, and I hadn't got these two fine people at council meeting together, but so we're here, and I'll just kind of give you a brief, let y'all hold these, gather them, look at them, appreciate them. We received a third place award for Best One-Time Special Event category for the Sesquicentennial Celebration of 2021, Where Texas History Lives event. These are recognized by, again, the Texas Associated Municipal Information Officers. And so that's through Jeff's department, but the activities in Tammy's department were notable enough that they submitted the application together. And then also we received a third place for plan or campaign category for the Foodie Trail Eat Where the Locals Eat campaign. And those are special awards. Both of these were Visit Granbury projects led by Ms. Dooley and her staff. And we had some other entries, but it did not place. But one of the judges' comment was interesting. I liked it so much, I went online and booked a weekend there at one of the bed and breakfasts. Can't wait to tour the cemetery and get out on the lake and walk downtown myself. So that's pretty good fruit of our efforts and recognized by the state. So let's give them a round of applause. So if y'all put these in the trophy case, I'd appreciate it. You know where they go. Thank you.
And since Jeff is our photographer, how will we get a photo of all this?
I'm going to do a selfie, but I think the meeting should move on. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you both. It's outstanding, as usual. Okay. Okay, this is, we're moving right along to public comments on agenda items for non-public hearing agenda items. And we only have one public hearing tonight. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes allotted at this time for comments regarding agenda items that are not listed as public hearing. Public hearing comments will be recognized when the public hearing is open. And I have no one who has signed up. Okay? Okay. So we're going to go right along to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are routine or previously discussed will be approved with one motion. However, should a member of the city council wish to discuss any item, said item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered under the deliberation agenda. Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Vale?
I'd like to move 6.4 to the deliberation agenda, please.
I'd like to move 6.4. Okay. Ms. Reiner, did you have anything? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So we will take 6.4 after we hear a motion to approve 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3. Is there a motion?
I make that motion.
Mr. Wadley?
Second.
Ms. Reiner seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And it passes 6-0. 5-0. Let me note that Mr. Corrigan is out tonight. I guess I should write down 5-0 then. And we wish Mr. Corrigan quick recovery, and I think he's okay. He's making sure we don't get anything. Okay. For item number 6.4.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I know we had a brief discussion on this item about replacing chairs in the pre-council chambers and also used as the conference room. I looked at the quote when it came in, a little surprised, obviously, on the cost. I know we've got some needs coming up as we repurpose the police station downstairs when the police department moves out and that department moves in there. I know we're doing a study on the space that's required. I'm sure that will more than likely require some furniture. We might look at it at that time. My recommendation is to hold off on that expenditure as we work through the current budget cycle and look in the next budget cycle as that is a potential opportunity and/or when the police station downstairs, we look to repurpose that. If we want to look at that at the same time, we can. And I think it might be prudent for us also to look at some other options, something that may be just a little more cost friendly to the city. So that's my.
Other comments? Mr.
One of mine
Warden?
would be that the price that Martin's has quoted is just under 50% of retail price. Is there a time constraint with that? Do you know that, Chris?
Mr. Ross, would you like to take over this agenda item since you've been running this project?
Not aware of any time constraint other than just the normal inflationary. Normally when they provide a quote, it is 30 days is what's typical in the industry. I'd have to take a look at this one to see if it applies here, but I would anticipate the price being good at least in the next 30 to 90 days, depending on inflation.
We also looked at the chairs downstairs in the conference room, and they are no longer available. They've been discontinued, so we were trying to get something that was more upscale than a regular desk chair.
And something that'll last. And
Yeah.
we actually priced some chairs like the ones in the community development conference room downstairs. And we compared those with some of the new chairs that are going into the police department conference rooms. And the build of the ones like the ones that went into the police department are the ones that we landed on, thinking that the pre-council chambers certainly warranted the equivalent of one of the police conference room departments. The chairs in there are, and I just took a vendor in there, a consultant, they're they're just embarrassing, and so they need to be changed. And I think everyone agrees with that. It sounds like it's just when we do it and how we do it may be what some would rather discuss more.
So is this the same chair that was in the new police station conference room?
It is.
Because I saw those chairs. I sat in one, actually. They're nice.
It is.
Okay.
It's the one where the police chief, deputy chief, those offices, that conference room right there. That's where we started talking about it with them and found out about the quality and how long they last compared, like anything, with some less expensive. Also, the community development chairs that were downstairs are no longer, they're discontinued, and so they're no longer available either. And so we were just thinking to put the right setting in the conference room along with the council chambers for all of us and for all of you that have meetings in there.
Also, this process has been going on about 6 months, so it's not like we strategically set this up. We're happy to do it whenever y'all want to do it.
Right.
It's just the need has been addressed over a period of time, and finally got all the pricing together, and then I threw a couple of wrenches into the proverbial spoke, so to speak, to look at other options, and anyway, that's where we're at. So.
Right.
Ms. Reiner?
Mayor, refresh my memory, are we required to use Martin's?
No, they're just considered local, and they are on, I believe it's the buy board, and a couple of other cooperative purchasing, so that their materials have already been competitively bid. They found an even lower priced cooperative purchasing group that they're a member of to get us a better price than buy board or the other one that they were looking at originally. So they suggested moving our purchase over to that buyer, again, since it's already been competitively bid.
Thank you, sir. I agree that they need to be replaced, but I echo what Mr. Vail said. I'm concerned about the timing. We're asking our folks in staffing to cut back their budgets, and I'm just not sure. Again, like Stephen said, we're getting ready to redo pretty much the entire building when the PD moves out. I would prefer to wait on this as well, and see if we can still get a good deal in the future. It may not be the same deal, or the same chairs, but my preference would be, again, I say this frequently, I have to look at this budget as I would look at my own, and I wouldn't spend $20,000 on chairs right now. I would wait and see if we can do it all at the same time at a different time.
Other comments?
Yeah, it was 16 chairs instead of what we have there now, so we'd have more chairs and enough to accommodate guests. So we'll just keep that number in mind as we move forward. And I had the same thought over the weekend about the whole project downstairs, trying to package it all together with one project. And this room needs new carpet, and that hall needs new carpet, and we've been saying it needs new carpet for 7 years, and we've been talking about doing a budget amendment when I finally get fed up with repairing it. So I'm an old carpet person, and so I have a lot of tolerance for bubbles. I know you can squirt glue in there and glue it down, and we need to do that again, clean it again. So we're trying to get our money's worth out of this 20-year-old carpet, 22-year-old, I guess now.
Well, when this first came up to the agenda, I was in the same place as Councilman Bale and Reiner, and then I went and looked at the chairs. I've just walked past them. I haven't looked at them. I looked at the chairs. I appreciate and applaud the work that you guys have done to go get this, and I think we need to go get the chairs. I think if we wait around, we're going to wind up spending more at some later time, because I even mentioned to City Manager Kaufman, I said we should just roll some of those out there, and I think that the people sitting in the room will make that decision for us. But they don't roll, so we're in that boat. So do I hear a motion concerning 6.4, either to adopt or not to adopt 6.4?
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
I
make a recommendation that we just move forward on this item number 6.4 and approve the amending the operating budget for the general fund fiscal year 2021-2022.
Do I hear a second?
I second that.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Nay.
We have 3 ayes and 2 nays. Does that pass? We do not have a...
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. That is our consent agenda. We're going to move now to the deliberation agenda, and this is a public hearing. After we have the presentation from city staff, we will open the public hearing. Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. At this time, I'll turn it over to our Director of Planning and Community Development, Kara Walwity.
Thank you, sir. So this item is public hearing, consider adoption of ordinance 2245, approving a request of For Shelby Incorporated for specific use permit to operate a one-guest suite unhosted bed and breakfast, and the property is addressed at 410 West Rucker Street, case number SUP 202215. This slide shows the site location map. The site is outlined in a teal color there. The site is improved with single-family residence with driveways onto the property on both the east and west side. The surrounding area is single-family R8.4 zoning, and the proposal again is for a one-guest suite unhosted bed and breakfast. I'd like to state that the application falls under the old ordinance for bed and breakfast because the application was submitted prior to the July 11th effective date of the new ordinance. So the site falls under the preceding requirements. This shows the site plan. The project would include 2 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces are required. The property is improved with 2 access drives, and those both have 1 parking space per access drive, so the parking's adequate. This shows the floor plan layout. The 2 bedrooms that would be used are shown. This is the first level floor plan. There's a basement floor plan as well, and that is proposed as shown with a playroom and a family room. And these are the photographs of the site. To the left is that driveway to the west side, and the photograph on the right is the driveway on the east side of the property. The application. This just shows the surrounding zoning and uses. It's all residential surrounding. This slide shows the proposed site outlined in teal. That light green circle is a 600-foot radius from the subject property, and we just use this to display nearby already approved short-term rentals, bed and breakfast properties. Those are outlined in purple. Other considerations, there are no records of previous or existing SUP approval for the proposed use on this site, and again, parking is adequate. On June 30th, staff mailed out 19 notices to all property owners nearby as required, and we also published on June 25th in the Hood County News an advertisement as also required. And when we wrote the report, there was 1 letter received in favor and no letters received in opposition. Nothing has changed. It's still the case. P&Z recommended on July 11th approval of the project. As presented, staff had conditions, and we carry those forward. This slide shows the considerations in determining the validity of an SUP request, and these are summarized from the zoning ordinance. 5 items: the harmonious character of the proposal with the surrounding area, the activities requested are normally associated with requested use, is the nature of the use reasonable, has any impact on the area been mitigated, and are there other measures that would secure and protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. When staff reviews and considers these, we find that this is the first request for such a use, and there's no performance history on which to base our analysis. The site is generally close to the historic district or historic square, and as you know, the comprehensive plan speaks to the policy direction for bed and breakfast near the tourism areas and the historic properties. The application appears to meet the supplemental land use standards that are in the zoning ordinance, and the applicant would need to demonstrate on record a plan to mitigate potential nuisances to adjoining property. That is, what is the property maintenance plan and/or emergency contact information, and that was brought up at PNC's, carries forward their recommendation. Staff recommended approval. It still recommends approval with these conditions. The first condition is our standard condition requiring inspections, permitting, and fees. Any violation would result in the SUP being null and void, and/or the certificate of occupancy may be revoked. The following two conditions are specific to this site, which is the 2 bedrooms is the maximum and requiring 1 parking space for each bedroom, which was shown in your presentation already. And the SUP would expire 1 year from the date of City Council approval. These are your voting options: approve with condition, which is staff recommendation, deny or continue, and again, the P&Z recommended with those conditions. I'll go back to that slide. Oops, went the wrong way. For your reference. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. White. Council have questions for staff before I open the public hearing? Mr. Weather?
You can do public hearing.
Well, no, I'm fine. Either way.
On the application, the owner's address is listed in Dallas. Is there a local person managing it, or is it going to be managed from distance?
So if I understand correctly, it'd be a local, but I prefer that the applicant speak to that. They have that information. They should have it.
No one else? Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing at this point in time. Do we have anyone that wants to speak? Do we have the owner here? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there other discussion, questions? Ms. White? Okay. So, do I hear a motion? Consider adopting ordinance number 22.45, approving a request of 4 Shelby Inc. for a specific use permit to operate a one-guest suite, unhosted bed and breakfast. The property's address is 401 West Rucker Street, SUP 22-15. Do I hear a motion to approve or not approve?
So moved. With the conditions.
To approve.
To approve, yes.
To approve with conditions.
Second.
By Ms. Reiner, and then second by Mr. Vale. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. It passes 5-0. 7.2, set the date, time, and place for a public hearing to receive the public input on the City of Granbury's proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 annual operating budget. Mr. Kaufman?
You bet. So we're not discussing the budget, we're just setting a date to put it on the calendar, and staff recommends that we agree with what the city charter says and place it on the first meeting in September. And I'm trying to get that date. I'm having trouble logging on tonight, so.
September 6th.
September 6th is our date, proposed date. We'll put that on the agenda for a public hearing. And by the way, that annual operating budget has been posted online, and you can access it by typing in www.granbury.org/2023 budget, and it'll take it a minute, but it will pull up that massive document, and you'll be able to look at it from home anywhere you have access, and we would encourage the public to do so. And we will also, at that budget hearing, have a video that gives a presentation of the operating budget that we're proposing. And Ava is standing ready to answer questions if you have any additional questions.
Council, do you have questions about setting this date as September the 6th, 2022? Okay. Do Do I hear a motion to set the date as September 6, 2022 at
6 p.m.
at 6 p.m. at Granbury City Hall for a public hearing to receive public input on the City of Granbury proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 annual operating budget?
So moved.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I
Mr.
second that.
Wadley? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Now, we have a discussion. Discuss the proposed this is 7.3. Discuss the proposed 2022 property ad valorem tax rate for the City of Granbury and vote on the proposed vote on the proposed 2022 tax rate to be placed on a future agenda for adoption. HCAD Certified Values, Granbury.
That's in your
hood
packet.
gate. That's the hood, okay.
Right.
got it.
So this is the same thing. We're not adopting a rate. We're simply putting a value on there that we will not exceed so that we can advertise that. And then the date would be the same date of September 6th at the same meeting at 6 p.m. here at City Hall. We've got a proposed tax rate of 38 cents in your packet. We were at 36 and some change at the budget workshop, so we're proposing a tax of 38 cents, which is about a penny and a fourth more than what we had at the budget workshop, which produces about $130,000 more revenue. So you can put that in we got to advertise that, and we need to put that on our website as well, and that's in our budget document as well. So you can discuss and adopt what you want to adopt at the budget workshop or the budget public hearing at that meeting on the 6th. But we have to advertise something, so that's what we put together for you.
Is this a not to be exceeded rate?
Right.
Okay. So after the discussion of the budget, whatever the dollars come out there, then it would be
That
what
is
the rate
correct.
is, not to exceed 38
Right.
cents.
Your worksheet has the rate that would require an automatic election, and that's around 82 cents. So we're substantially under that at 38 cents. However, the appraised values did go up, and we're trying to keep our tax rate as low as we can.
Okay. Council, other discussions, questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the proposed 22 property ad valorem tax rate for the City of Granbury and vote on this proposed 2022 tax rate to be placed on a future agenda for adoption, and that future agenda will be September 6th,
September 6th.
2022? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Vale makes a motion, second.
Second.
Ms. Reiner? The proposed rate
Not
is
to exceed. We're
not to
dis-
exceed 38 cents.
No, you're fine.
Okay? We're all good? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. We're now going to move to citizens' comments on matters not. No? 7.4. Consider selecting an auditing firm under the RFP 22-22-21 to perform a professional auditing services for the City of Granbury for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2022 through the end of fiscal year September 30, 2024, with the option to renew for 2 subsequent fiscal years. Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We've been using the same auditing firm for over a decade, and best practices require us to change. So we did an RFP. I'll turn it over to Ava and let her walk you through what she's done to get to this point. It's been a very thorough process. We have nothing but good things to say about the auditor that's been doing the work for us for over a decade. They've done a great job. We would recommend them to anyone. However, we need a fresh set of eyes, and that's just common good practices that we're trying to follow. So go ahead, Ava.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. As Mr. Kaufman mentioned, we have released a request for proposal for auditing services on June 18th, and we received 3 proposals, and we evaluated the proposals within the finance department and discussed it with Mr. Kaufman, and we did our best to compare them and summarize the key elements of each of the proposals. We have included the proposals in your packet as well for your review. The auditing firm Mr. Kaufman mentioned was George Morgan Sneed that had performed the city's audit since 2007. They have performed a very comprehensive and professional audit, and the city has been very happy with them. But after reviewing all the proposals, we wanted to provide you the evaluation and analysis of these proposals. As I mentioned, I highlighted the key elements of each of the proposals for your review as well. And because the proposal included an evaluation criteria, we have, within the finance department, we have assigned value points to each of these criteria for your review as well. Our charter states that council is the one that engages the auditing services. That is the reason we made our recommendation, but we have placing it in your hands to choose the auditing firms. They're all qualified, all 3 of them. Very professional, thorough proposals were submitted to the city. And I think I have mentioned everything I wanted to say about that. But I also know it should not be the finance department choosing the auditing service.
Questions for Ava?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Bale.
Ava, what's the common practice then? I mean, I don't know if this is, accounting standards, but how often should you change your company does your audit? What kind of prescribed time frame is that?
So some cities have it in their charter to rotate auditors every 5 years, no matter what.
Okay.
Other cities don't. And we have released proposals before, and we didn't receive any input from what I remember. This time we have received 3, and it's a professional service, so we are not required to go out for proposals, but we definitely wanted to do that. As Mr. Kaufman mentioned, that our auditing firm has been engaged with the city since 2007, and I contacted the 2 new ones I have not spoken to, just checked on references, and they're all, everybody was very satisfied with them. So I have nothing, any additional comments to say. They're all very much qualified, and we just based it on the proposals, based on the inputs, their experience. One of the audit firm actually is also a reviewer for GFOA, so they're very experienced on how the audit report needs to be prepared. And so best practice probably would be every 5 years.
Okay. Just one other question. As I look back through the RFPs, down on pricing notes, on one of them is all-inclusive, which is our current auditor. The other 2 are, there's some inclusions in there relative to additional services requested, be discussed and billed, but et cetera. Do you anticipate any, additional services that might be required? Because I also looking at the total cost when I look back through the evaluations and looking at the total cost to perform the audit versus what we're getting today. Is that an add-on that you see something substantial coming?
I have covered that with Patillo, Brown and Hill. That's actually the maximum price that they will charge.
Okay.
So it will not be more than that. They explained that, and I tried to include that in our pricing note. It is possible that it's going to be less. They ask if we prefer on-site audit or a remote audit, and we explained to them that we always had an on-site audit, but a combination of both would work. And we also understand once we switch auditors, it'll be a lot longer process
Sure.
for a new auditor to come in and start.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that when you're procuring professional services, by law, you don't do it based on the low price. You do it based on professional services qualifications. And so that's what we looked at. Also, there are single audits that are going to be required, and apparently they've got those built in to their bid package already. But you can't go by the price on your sole selection. You need to go by qualifications, and just like we would if it was engineering services. And thanks staff for being diligent and making those calls and communicating and working through that process to help us guide this ship. You know, you hear stories, and I'm not saying anything negative about anything in the past, but you know, there's movies made about municipal governments that have fallen down to not doing their due process and finding auditors to do things new and getting new eyes and things like that. I'm not saying we'll ever experience that, but this is an internal control that we exercise by changing auditors every so often to make sure that we're always getting a good fresh set of eyes on our books and a good thorough audit performed by somebody new that's outside, that's not privy to all the inward workings. So they come in and they ask the same repetitive questions that the other auditors do, and hopefully they get the same answers that we end up with. But it's a new group of people doing the function that's required, and it helps by having new people in place to do that. So it's an internal control. So can't say enough good things about what staff's done to get us to this point.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor, Ava, what were we paying for services? Just, can you answer that?
What?
235.
We have been paying very close to what the proposal we received from GMS. I think actually that's exactly what we were paying. That's on your analysis. They did not increase it.
They were
For
charging us
sure.
about $40,000 plus the $5,000 for the single audit, which is completely within reason.
Okay. I just think I was looking at this, and, you know, I'm glad that we have this internal audit. It just gives us another opportunity to keep it competitive and just to see where the city can save money and still provide the same level of service. And in this case, you're getting the same level, if not better experience service for the city. Like you stated, I know Patil, Brown, and Hill, they have the GFOA Special Review Committee members. They also have the IT representative that has the internal control review, and also that provide any type of assistance with Encode or anything like that with your financial programs, which is good. And then comparing it to GMS, I mean, they're just as competitive, if not have this the same experience as they do. The only thing I did not understand was the government audit experience. GMS and BMY, they have, you know, they're equivalent in years. I don't know what those years would be in Patil, Brown, and Hill. It just says 100 government entities are audits. I don't know if that's one audit or two audits a year, or maybe 100 audits in 1 year. I don't know. I don't know how many years of experience they have.
Trying to see that note I have there. I think what we have included is how many governmental entities they're auditing under the government audit experience. So Patillo Brown and Hill has over 100 government audits that they have completed. Yeah.
Again, it just goes to show you the due diligence that each department does in order to get the best services for the city and also for the citizens of Granbury. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Okay. I noted that they've done the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting on a regular basis, and in all instances where they've been associated with the clients that pursued this, that they have achieved that. So I know how important that is to our organization, so I'm happy to see that. And I noticed that one of their proposed individuals, Nero Matthias, has worked with us on our CAFR in the past. And apparently that was over 5 years ago, because he said that. So they have some of the experience even working in Granbury. And a number of these people that they have here have degrees from Tarleton, so they maybe understand the area. Other comments, questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion to select, that would be, that's going to be a very long name here. PB&I? Can we just call them that? Patillo, Brown, and Hill. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to engage Patillo, Brown, and Hill to provide auditing services for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022 through the end of the fiscal year, September 20th, 2024, with the option to renew 2 subsequent fiscal years.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. It passes 6-0. 5-0.
5-0.
I thought Greg came in.
He'd probably rather be here.
It's one of those days. Started early. We're moving now to number 8, citizen comments on matters not on the agenda. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes for a combined total of 30 minutes allotted at this time for comments regarding matters not listed on the agenda. City Council will be allowed to receive input or information for future agenda items, but will not be allowed to enter into discussions. I have Megan, and I'm going to ask you to properly pronounce your last name when you come to the dais, please. Megan is from Granbury here. Okay?
The EAU said like an O.
Okay. And you might want to move that mic up. There you go.
Babineau.
All right.
I'm the owner of Restaurant Anise, which brings a substantial depth to the culinary scene in Granbury, which I think was much needed. And a lot of the residents here appreciate that, which I'm thankful for. After 2 years of being in business, however, we still struggle with visibility as we are not on the main thoroughfare. And so what I would like to ask the City Council is to consider 2 variances in regarding signage. I've spoken with the owner of H&H Printing, who owns the property at the corner of Kalinko and North Plaza. It's 1459 North Plaza. And she has 2 pole signs already on her property. And she does not mind my proposals as long as the City Council approves them. And the first variance that I'd like to request is that for allowing for off-premise advertising, currently the city ordinance does not allow for that. And being that I'm 100 plus feet away from the frontage road, putting a sign, a monument sign as allowed by the city ordinance right now, it would just be a waste of money, because if somebody's not on Kalinko, they still aren't going to see the sign. So moving that signage to North Plaza right on 377 would increase the visibility. And then the second variance that I'd like to request is for modification to an existing pole sign. She does have a faceplate on there right now, and I'd like to request to put a second faceplate mounted underneath hers within whatever regulations the city might require. So That's
Okay. Thank you. As comment, we cannot comment back to you, but you do have your address here
Okay,
for
perfect.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Stacy Rist?
My name is Stacy Rist. My husband and I own the property at 3101 Old Granbury Road, next door to where the permit has yet to be issued for the east sewer plant at 3121 Old Granbury Road. And we own an RV park there, and our family business has been there for 50 years now. A few weeks ago, maybe months ago now, I attended a meeting about impact fees. And I brought this up once before, but this is the part of the PowerPoint that I received through the Open Records Act, and it is dated November 2018. And in this PowerPoint, it speaks often to the proposed north sewer plant by the new police station. And I would just like the public to know, and you all to know, that multiple times we have been told that there was no alternative to the east sewer plant. Our conversations began in 2020, and this is a PowerPoint presentation from November 2018. So there's either a lack of education or a lack of truthfulness going on amongst multiple council members and the former mayor, because we were told that in person by multiple people. Also, would just like to discuss how poor decisions have consequences, and the poor decision to put the sewer plant next to our RV park has held us hostage from expanding our RV park for 2 years. And because of that, you're also suffering consequences, and many, many other developers and homeowners are suffering consequences because they cannot build a toilet unless they get some magical variance that keeps happening for the moratorium. But we are as harmed by this moratorium as you are. And I would love to be able to expand our RV park and look forward to the day that we can. And I'd like to point out that Chris just said that professional services are not chosen on price, but specifically, he and the former mayor stood at our RV park and told us the location for the east sewer plant was chosen strictly because it was the cheapest option they could find. So we don't choose other things based on price, but something with this much of an impact, we choose based on price. I urge you to withdraw the permit for the east sewer plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anita Branch?
Hello, my name is Anita Branch, and I live at 1720 Benttree Court in Granbury. And it's really hard to believe, but for more than 2 years now, I've been coming to the council to express my concerns and dismay over the city's ill-conceived plan for a sewage treatment plant on Old Granbury Road. The property for that facility was purchased immediately after the city forced annexed more than 2,000 acres of property and purchased at a cost of nearly 4 times the appraisal value listed on the county assessor's records. This astronomical price was made even more questionable since only about 30% of the acreage purchased was located outside the 100-year floodplain. To clarify what that phrase means is that in any given year, the property could be flooded. There's a 1% chance that that property could be flooded, which statistically is 3.65 days a year. As our neighbors in Kentucky are currently dealing with the devastation associated with a 1,000-year storm event, which statistically is a 0.1% chance of occurring every given year, Due to climate change, the modeling that determines the likelihood of storm events will continue to evolve regardless. The proposal to build a sewage plant immediately adjacent the currently designated 100-year floodplain presents significant risk of environmental contamination due to sewage spills over the design life of the project. In the city's arguments in the contested case hearing held this past March, the city relied on testimony from their economics expert, a gentleman who was proudly identified as an individual that was crucial for turning sleepy little Plano into the thriving example of suburban sprawl that it is today. Indeed, because the city's own modeling showed that discharges from the sewage plant did not meet the required environmental standards, a clear violation of both state law and the Clean Water Act, they justified the resulting environmental damage as being justified because of the economic benefits. So basically, developers and the city will get rich on the backs of those of us on whom the bulk of the environmental damage will be inflicted. The slanted coverage in the local news rag always tries to point out that the city was forced to implement a construction moratorium because of our opposition to the sewage plant. However, they never state that the city tried to avoid a moratorium in the first place by relocating the sewage plant to a less damaging area, like, for example, the North Sewage Plant. You've had more than 2 years to accomplish this, yet here we still are. And here we still will be years from now as this fight continues through all legal channels available. Please withdraw your application. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Victoria Calder.
Hello, I'm Dr. Victoria Calder. I live at 1911 Green Wing in Granbury. And here we are again, waiting to see about the results of the TCEQ Commissioner's opinion on the proposed sewer plant. We have been waiting to see for over 2.5 years now. And the first, it started out with waiting to see, y'all were waiting to see how many signatures we got in opposition. And once we got 30, then 100, then 200, then 300, then 400, a record in TCEQ. Then it was waiting to see if we had a public meeting, and of course we did. Then waiting to see if we were granted a hearing in the TCEQ Commissioner's Court. And all the while, green light, green light. The green light was really not to have a plant built because you don't have a permit, but to go forward with this process. Then it was waiting to see the outcome of that hearing, then waiting until the SOAH hearing, waiting for the outcome of that. Now it's back to waiting for the outcome or the scheduling of, and then the outcome of the TCEQ Commissioner's hearing again. And if I understand the process correctly, and in looking at precedent cases that are very, very similar to ours, this process can go on for many years, 3 to 5 years, it looks like. I'm looking at the wait-and-see process not serving the public well. Think about in your own life, whether you're in have ever been in a toxic job, a toxic relationship, a toxic situation, but you waited to see because you'd already spent so much time in it, sort of like sticking with a stock that's going down, down, down and following it down. But the wait-and-see approach is not serving the public well. The moratorium wouldn't be necessary if 2.5 years ago I hadn't heard it's gone too far to turn back now. We can't, but this wait-and-see can go on a long, long time. As a psychologist, I remember studying looking at a definitive research study where successful people tend to adjust to the shifting winds, the changing of events. They're very adaptable. They don't follow a bad situation down because it's gone too far to turn back now. They look at how facts have changed, new facts have emerged, as they certainly have in this case, and they're able to shift accordingly from an unfortunate trajectory. I invite you to do the same with at least 2 clear alternatives, not only the north plant that is clearly defined and mapped in the Granbury Economic Impact by the Economic Impact Committee, and we have copies of that map. It's there. It was bought in 2010 and planned for more than a decade, but also the west plant, where you do already have permission and have had for many years the ability for Granbury to tie into the west plant. From the time the developer applied for that to be the Hood County Water District, and it was granted in Dallas County, until until he was granted a full permit, 1.5 million gallons a day. That went through fast, as could any other alternative that you'd looked at that was less objectionable. You already have permission to tie into that one. I advise you to look at that or any other alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Calder. With that, I now declare that the Granbury City Council is convened into open session, that all members, with the exception of Mr. Corrigan, are present. City Council will now go into closed session pursuant to provisions of Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in the following sections. 551, consultation with attorney, pending or contemplated litigation. 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. 551.074, personnel matters, discuss possible amendments to the city manager agreement, discuss the compensation study, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We're now in closed session. I now declare that the Granbury City Council reconvenes into open session. There was no action taken in closed session, and all council members, exception of Councilman Corrigan, are present. Council, any discussion, any items to raise?
Mayor,
Ms. Reiner?
I'd like to make a motion to place 2 signs on city property at West Bluff and Crockett, identifying designated private property using funds from the Inge Foundation.
I second that motion.
Motion's made and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Is there any other issues?
Mayor,
Ms. Reiner?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the city manager's contract as negotiated to become effective on August 2nd, 2022.
Second.
Motion has been made to accept the city manager's contract effective August 2nd, 2022. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. It passes 5-0. Any more business? There being no more business, we are adjourned.